20 years after their death, and 20 years have passed. You may, first of all, not necessarily even know who these people are. You may not actually know how to get in touch with them, how to obtain permission to publish all of these works. So the fact that you have a scanner doesn't really, make it all that much easier for you to put up a digital archive of this author's collections. So some of the things you'll be looking, some of the sources, just like a quick list of some of the sources that you may want to consult when you're looking at permissions. The U.S. Copyright Office has until 1989, I think. I didn't write this down, I should have. I think it's until 1989 when copyright needed to be registered with the Library of Congress. The Copyright Office would have some sort of renewal notices, so it may give you some clues into who you can go and ask for work. WorldPAC has a beta format of something that they call the evidence registry, in which they're trying to gather some ownership information. Watchfile at the University of Texas in Austin is another source that is trying to do this. All of these are wonderful, but they're all still very, very small scale. There isn't a one-stop shop for this. You will have to go probably to multiple sources. Publishers, literary agents, reference works, all of those sources that you know about, like just general directories and biographies, could give you some information about where to find the person who may possibly own the copyright. If you're dealing with orphan works, what you do have to demonstrate is that you have done a good faith search for the owner. You have to demonstrate and document that you have tried your best to find who owns this work. You have to document this in the form of, I went and I searched and I sent emails and I sent letters and I made phone calls, and you have to basically keep it forever. If the owner turns up after you had already published this material, reasonable compensation should be awarded. This is kind of like done to, or recommended, to prevent situations in which, you're sort of like, you don't have a choice now because you already used it and you published it, so they can milk you for all you have. So this is supposed to not allow that to happen. And finally, the last area that I want to talk about is managing copyright for others, whether you're doing this in the form of e-reserve or, again, helping faculty with publication. And the issues that you'll be encountering in terms of managing copyright are institutional policies and as well as risk management. So some, but not all, institutions have policies about e-reserves. Policies that say things like, it is the library's role to ask for permission to use or to place things on e-reserves, or it is the faculty's permission. Not surprising, and surprising to me at least initially, number of libraries put the burden on the faculty, Pratt being one of them, but not in any way unique. So it isn't the library that has to get permission to put something on e-reserves, it will be the individual faculty. If the faculty, so you have somebody who teaches anything, that they don't really know much about copyright, but they have to go and they have to get permission to put something, the copyright release to put something on e-reserve. Does the fact that you are now giving this responsibility to individual faculty change the definition of what e-reserve is? So is e-reserve only what the area on the library website that's called e-reserve, or can you more broadly define e-reserve to use content management systems, for example? what you now call e-reserve. Another